Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? And welcome back to the channel. This is Saga, and today we are having episode number 3 for the Legacy podcast. And we are taking a different approach at this podcast today. And we will not be talking much about competitive today. Instead, let us take a different perspective on what goes through a caster's mind. And today's guest we have here is going to be Mr. Jaentan, or you people know him as JT. Would you like to introduce yourself, JT, to the audience?
Hello, everybody. As Saga said here, that my name is JT, and most people know me as it, but I do called as Jaentan as well. And yeah, I have been like a caster for like soon a year now, and yeah, I don't know much more to say about me. That I am apparently becoming a Swedish Viking here, Valhalla, to everybody out there.
That is good to hear, JT. Welcome to the show, and I'm really glad to have you here. The first two episodes we did, which were with Subaki and Rishi, as you already know, we talked a lot about competitive stuff, what's going on in the meta, what's kicking up in the current meta with the introduction of five new items. There was a lot of stuff that was going on, and we had a nice brief discussion. But then I thought episode 3 should be something different. So let's talk about caster's perspective on what does a caster feel when the meta changes. What is a favorite type of thing that a caster would like to cast? What type of meta would a caster prefer the most? But tell us something about yourself first as a player. Have you always been like when you started playing Temtem? What exactly did you do? Like, did you already know you wanted to become a caster in Temtem, or did you just started playing normally and then things went through and you decided to go for that path later on?
When I actually started to playing Temtem, I walked into becoming as a Luma hunter. So I approached this game slightly differently until like I were watching actually races that one have been already in this podcast and been talking to you, Saga. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, I'm kind of like leaning more and more towards casting. Actually, there was one time like last summer that I thought of maybe I should try to pick it up, but I never actually had like the well, how should I say this? Like, yeah, the confidence for me to like just jump into like not knowing like anything what I'm like gonna be saying and all that. And I just stumbled into like casting after like being playing a little bit competitive myself and starting to feeling like, yeah, I mean, I wanted to help out the community as much as possible. And that's why I decided why not to taking a big step and actually becoming a caster and help out the community as much as possible.
Okay, so as you say, you started the game as a Luma hunter and you were well full-time Luma hunter, let's just say like that. So there must be, like you said, you started playing PvP and you started liking the game, you wanted to give more to the community and you decided to become a caster. But there must be a player that must be your favorite and must have inspired you to go for it, right? Like, is there any high level PvP player that inspired you for becoming a caster, and or any other streamer, any other caster that inspired you that you should also do that kind of thing? Is there anyone you
The
inspire from?
my biggest like inspirer, like both when it comes to PvP, but also when it comes to like commentary. There are two actually different people that I have to actually include in this. One of them, when it comes to PvP itself, is actually Mr. Ricci. I actually stumbled on him like I'm believing in May or in June, like when he's decided to just start streaming. I walked into him like he's a young fella, like very very good player, like good reading, like he such have a brain, like knowing what he's going to do. Like that's really inspired me to like without him I never actually would have taken this step into PvP. And when it's come to like actually starting to casting, I'm gonna have to say Press B Kennedy. Excuse me for stumbling on the name, because yeah, I tried to say it
It's
way too quickly.
completely
But
fine.
Kennedy was actually one of the few people I walked into casting a club board together actually with Rishi that actually caught my attention. Like, sounds actually really interesting to be commentating. And then of course, like we having Lord that is also commentating. Like another amazing caster is also like Water. Like he's like I would say gonna have to be like top 5 casters that we have currently. Like his brain goes everywhere. Like he almost can cover up everything. But the two most inspiring from the beginning were actually Presby Kennedy and Rishi when it's come to casting and PvP.
That's nice. That's nice. Do you remember what your first official cast was? And if not, what is the earliest that comes to your mind?
I do actually remember when my first actually casting were. It was actually the match between shocking. It's gonna be Legacy versus Asylum, first season into the minor league. The funny thing is that Arkham Knight were supposed to be casting with Roars at that match. I remember as well it was a 3v3, and I do believe that Legacy barely lost due to, if I'm not misremembering, like a small mistake. I don't know I don't remember much from it, but
It was
I
me
just
not having the correct moves on Saku, and that costed us the match.
yeah, that was really unfortunate. Rorsey was like supposed to be casting that day, but he never showed up. I was just joking with Rorsey, not Rorsey, with Arkham Knight, and I said, "Hey, I could be casting with you," and he actually invited me in to be casting. And this was a day in December, actually. So from there, I kind of like, okay, let's continue with this. I kind of like casting from that point, and I had a great time. We both had like a pretty good chemistry between us, so we were just goofing around, being serious at times, and then we goof around in between. So we really had a good time like casting with each other.
Were you a complete natural at that time, or did it take you some time to get to the level that you are currently at? Like, for me, when someone asks me that, what was I 1 year ago when I started streaming, and what am I right now when I am streaming for 1 year, there's a huge, big improvement, I would say, in my personality itself. I gained a lot of confidence. I learned how to interact with people, how to talk with people, and I gained a lot of skills in a whole year of streaming experience. So for me as a caster, I personally learned a lot from when I started. It was way too less, and now it's a lot more better than what it was before. So for you, did you feel like you were completely a natural, or did it take you some time to actually get better at casting and it brought you where you are right now?
I am gonna have to say though that I don't think that I naturally got like I wasn't born to be a caster, if we say it like that to begin with. But I think that why people liking me to be a caster is like I have this such I bring up the level to the next level with my hype. Like I'm getting way too excited about certain things. For example, like if I see a Shween garden together with a tattoo and the tattoo actually do rage, I would just
Mm-hmm.
flip my mind and go completely like I'm just gonna be so amazed because I would like to see these kind of set that you know what it's going to do, and I'm so hyped about it. And it's definitely taken time to actually start to feel also confident to being casting as well. But at the first, we like when we're casting for people that I know were just playing, I didn't felt that much of a pressure. But as soon as I were casting with like Quarter, I was casting with Subaki, I were casting with Jeb, we're casting actually with Saber. Like some of that like confidence started to like becoming like a little bit of I was scared and feared that I might do so many mistakes. But after finding like the personality into the casting and just thinking of this is just me casting and this is what I'm going to be focusing on instead of like trying to be like, oh, I'm going to be the greatest caster ever and I'm going to be having this person, I'm going to be acting like this person, but it doesn't work like that. So I just should just try to find my own personality, which I think I have, and I'm really proud of where I'm right now when it comes to casting.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. I mean, that is exactly what I was saying. Like, game knowledge is something that we learn over time, and everyone does that as well. It's the same for everyone, but for casting, game knowledge is not the only thing that's important. You also need to know how to present that. Like if you know some speed, some outspeeding terms or the moves that are about to come, how you represent that, how you put that up in picture when a turn is going on is all that matters. And it is something that you learn slowly. Some people are natural because maybe their English is the best, their best language is English. Their They just know how to present the stuff, kind of thing. But for me, it was I had to learn it because I'm not the best in English when it comes to presenting my words into speech, you know. But let's move on to the next question now. You know how people say that they have their favorite metas to play in, you know, like some people say, for example, Subaki would say that the stall meta is the best meta to play in because he loves stall, and then Alola might be there with saying aggro meta is the best, and I enjoy the current one because aggro is also in the meta, you know. So you as a caster, what is your favorite meta to cast? Like if you're casting, which kind of a matchup would you enjoy doing the most?
I think I'm gonna have to say though, it's either gonna be aggro or some sort of like mid-range team because it's all depending on like how do you play with a quick, fast-paced Thames when you try to push a lot of threats towards with this aggro team, or when it's come to like this mid-range, because there's so many different aspects what you can do actually with the mid-range. You can still you can be like half stall, but you can still put a lot of pressure towards it, or you just try to work around, like let's say for like this old Quetzal combo, like you have a little bit of push forward, but also like you can build up on the side and keep the pressures going. So there's some like in between there. I definitely liking to see when it's come to like aggro and in a mix of this mid range.
I see. So you would like to say mid range the most. So what is your least favorite one? I'm assuming full stall.
Like stall is okay on a good level. The thing that's kind of like boring to watch though is actually like some sort of like, I mean, if Doom and Stall were like mixed together, that was kind of like it's it's sort of a boring way that you have to like getting so many turns in to like setting up correctly to making sure that you can actually pull out the weights that you have to do when it comes to like all of the other player styles. That it's more like if you do one mistake, it can definitely flip, but if that person do another mistake, it can flip back. That's something what I really like when it's going back and forward. So Stall itself and Doom is probably the least favorite, I'm gonna have to say.
So I'm assuming what you mean to say is you do not like matches which are basically like a stalemate in which, let's just say, double benefactor Kino versus double benefactor Kino, and everyone is just, you know, lifeful sapping, not damaging, doing nothing, just making you wait till turn 30. I believe this is what you're saying is the least favorite to cast, right?
That is probably one of the last thing I want to cast. Like I don't know what to say. Like that if even if you yourself know what's going to be happening next turn, then there's nothing really to add in.
Okay, now this is a second question again. From a competitive standpoint, which meta is your favorite to play in? Like you yourself playing, which is your favorite to play in? Is it still mid range or anything else?
I'm gonna have to go though. I have like a love still for aggro, but I'm more like trying to find a good position into like mid range team, like try to set up the team or like trying to lower the defense and using the raw power from the team itself. So I'm pretty sure that I have like a mix between mid range and aggro into what I liking most.
I see. Now, how did you perform during this meta? Any noticeable achievements? Because I do believe you have started playing competitive, and lately you have been playing a lot as well in competitive. I see you more in competitive nowadays in ladder than before.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to like to pick up the pace, and I've said so many times to myself, like I should definitely pick up more PvP, and especially like now when we're actually having a pretty solid meta as well, and also like you're having a lot of different like setup. Like there's not like if you think back of Kissewa or even back to Tokma, there was only like certain how you can play them, but now in actually Cipanku, there's it's so such an open world. Like you can mix together however you want, and you can actually make out of it completely. Like I've been screaming at a lot of different people who have like playing, for example, like now when gravel bag is out, one of the items that's recently
Mm-hmm.
been added,
Mm-hmm.
Cesar have becoming more of a threat 10 under DA Naga. So like that is something that you like have to consider, and it's it is so amazing like to see like how they can build around it. But even building like temps you don't see very often, for example, Acronox. Suddenly you see an Acronox that is almost as fast as Yukama, but Yukama is just making sure that getting that water cannon out, and you can venom spreading, just making sure it's not outspeeding, and just getting that valuable damage.
That is so true. I mean, when it was Kisiva, I remember it was fire cohesion, neutrals being spammed. It was Raiken and neutrals quite Seleno spam. Then we had Yovlar Kino meta by itself, where they were just stomping through the ladder back and forth. Nothing really was countering, kind of thing. But this, I can agree with you that Cipanku is the best meta this game has ever had in terms of PvP for sure. Um, Now, next question I had is, there are a lot of clubs in Temtem, from what I know. A lot of communities, a lot of different clubs. For example, the new ones like Legacy, Phoenix, Whiplump Lovers, these are all the new clubs. But then there are some OG clubs, which is PDX, we have Ronin, we have Enigma, we have Exotic French. So, how did you go about joining Ronin? Because I do believe that you are part of Ronin at the moment, under the Voodoo flag, maybe, but still, you are like when you originally joined, you did join Ronin. Did they approach you or did you approach them?
The funny thing is that when it's come to when I actually joined Ronin, where that when I saw an opportunity to like try to play with them, I were talking to a little bit with Rishi, and I even talking to Ricky as well, as I've been facing both of them. And Ricky said at one point that I mean, if you really want to join Ronin, yeah, I mean, you can always throw a application, and we will see if we will take you in. But as I see, I proved a little bit by the time I did back in Kisuwa. And I'm gonna have to say that it took me like 6 months, actually, around 4 to 6 months, to actually taking the step from thinking about to joining Ronan to actually applicate to Ronan. And I'm gonna have to say though, thank you to Noah Phil to actually push me over the edge to actually made application to Ronan. And from there, like this is like the best day that I decided to join Ronan, because it's such a big family in there. Like I love every moment.
That is good. So I was next question I was gonna ask is, how's the experience been there, but you already explained that. So let me go into the next question after that, which is, Ronin also merged recently with Voodoo, as I just said. So what's your opinion on this move? It's expanding Ronin to merge with a smaller club as well, giving them shelter while making their own minor roster, from what I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good approach from Ronan to actually letting Ronan players that weren't able to be playing under the Ronan flag in the last season, and also the person who's actually running the Voodoo Club itself, Luusi, which is also now on the Ronin, but he's running it with his alt now, taking care of it. I think it like I said, it's a good idea. Then we can bring in players that had never played or had never had the chance to play actual Club War, and like for example, like from Ronin part, we have in gimmicks, we're having myself, we have Sal, we have gimmicks. I think it says gimmicks twice, but Sedge also is few of the Ronin people that's in there, but we have a lot of it as well from like we have very few from old Warwick. We have fine people out of the woods as well, just joining into it, and it just we are started becoming like a little bit of a family right now in Buddha clan here as we progressing through.
That is really good to hear. Now, next question is a bit interesting because you are technically not part of Legacy Club. You are technically not part of, Legacy as a club member, but you have done more and beyond doubt for Legacy as a community, and you have given almost your 100%, I believe, for Legacy, from doing events to doing casting for multiple events, backing up when someone was not there, even staying up till 4 in the morning if required for something. So how do you feel, do you about Legacy in general? Like, you do so much for Legacy without even being a part of part of the club, but I guess you have some kind of attachment to Legacy as well, right? What makes you motivated to help Legacy throughout all the events and everything that you do for Legacy?
Legacy is like my second home. Like I'm gonna have to say that if I wasn't able to be a part of Ronan, Legacy is always a second home for me. Like no question about it. And knowing also like there's a lot of good people in here as well. Like for example, like we're having Blank, there's Cypher, Patter, a lot of other good players, and we're having also great mods in here. Like the whole community itself is it's so good, and I'm so passionate about also be a part of like when it's come to like Legacy itself. Even though I'm not like written to be like under the tag of Legacy, as you said, but I
Hmm.
still feeling like I'm still a part of Legacy because all of the things I've done, like as I said, I've been waking up 4 in the morning. Like one of the things, like I'm maybe pushing myself a little bit too far with certain things, but I'm always thinking Legacy and Temtem has to go. Like try to be going first in most of the cases, and I'm this kind of guy that I want to help as much as possible, but I need to take consider to not burning out myself. But as long as I have the motivation up, I'm always there to helping out the community.
Yep, that is pretty accurate as you said. And as the leader of Legacy, I try to keep as much, how do you say, all the communities combined as much as I can. Like Ronin is already a brother club for Legacy, and so is Enigma. And Exotic French Well is a brother clan as well. I mean, it was the old Enigma that was merged into Exotic French, and so is Enigma as well. So I believe a Legacy is a as a club is a different entity completely. So you might not be there, but it is still a completely separate entity. And Legacy as a community, which is where every single club people meet up, we do events, we do everything. Do you think I am doing an okay job at just keeping the Legacy club and Legacy community a bit separate as their own entities? Or is there any
I think
feedback would you like to give me for that? For Legacy as a community, not a club.
uh I mean, about the club, I cannot say much though. But when it's come to the community itself, like I think so far from what I've been feeling and experienced, it's have been really good though, and especially like seeing and also hearing a lot from you as well that how the community is growing in Legacy, like how many people is joining into the Legacy Discord, and we're having like still a lot of good amount of people to coming by whenever you're streaming or whenever like we're having like other like random things happening on Discord as well. Like there's always people like popping up here and there. So I think like so far like the Legacy community is having taken a really good approach here, and we having also like really good mods. Now I'm saying we as yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
you can think of like, being a part of Legacy, but it's like Legacy is definitely going towards the right direction with having great mods, having a like always something that's coming ahead. There's always people helping out each other. So Legacy is definitely a place that if you want to take small step at learning as well or ask anything other when it comes to like the game itself, like it's a good opportunity and good approach to take.
That is really nice of you. Thank you so much for the feedback. Now, I need to ask you a very important question, and you gotta give me a nice detailed answer right now, sir. Um, you gotta explain me the story behind behind the phrase "bully is online" that is practically assigned to you, and you are known for that phrase. What's the backstory behind this, sir?
Okay, so the backstory behind Bull is Online is actually from a guy called Josh Striker when he actually were also part of the Twitch community in the Temtem community itself. He was doing a big tournament, I believe, one time, and he was asking one time in to the caster and just said, is Bully online? When there was actually Grandpa standing there, when Grandpa actually having the advantage due to it, as we know the Bully trait how it works. If your team having 110 more than your opponent, the trait Bully will activate and doing more damage. So he was keep asking, is Bully online? And the captain said, yes, Bully is online. And he replied with, guys, Bully is online. Suddenly that he just disappeared, as I'm believing he had life to take care of, or he decided to move on with his life from away from Temtem. And I just decided I'm gonna take over that sentence. And I randomly said this every single time I saw Grandpa and I saw Bully went online. I always shouted into the Twitch chat, Bully is online. And from there, it's becoming a thing to me, even though I didn't create it. It was actually your
Mm-hmm.
struggle creating it, but I actually kept the meme going. That's the most important. I kept the meme alive.
I see what you mean. Okay, so next question. Do you have any advice for aspiring casters or people who are looking to aid the competitive scene as we have a lot of upcoming casters coming up? I have a lot of questions in this subcategory, but first you can just give a general advice that you would like to give to the new coming casters.
Okay, so the first thing I would kind of say is that it's always good if you actually play some competitive by yourself, like getting understanding
Mm-hmm.
of like what the temp does, if you can how you set up and so on. Like try to think of okay, so if I do this, what would the other player do? So just playing a little bit competitive by yourself will helping a lot actually, but also if you actually taking time to watching other playing as well, not other playing, but if you see matches as well and you listen to the caster and getting an idea how the casters actually approaching into that turn and thinking what will happen towards to what it also could happen to like this is really going back and forward there. But first of all, like play a little bit competitive yourself and also watch a lot of like matches like between all of the casters because every single casters have a little bit different from how they're approaching into each match. But if you're getting just just gather all of the information from every single video you're watching, you're getting an understanding how to cast. You don't know how to properly cast until like you're taking the step.
Mm-hmm. And every caster has a different personality as well on how to represent the turn that is going on, you know. Some people might predict the next turn, some people are really good at hyping the current turn which is being played, some people are predicting the plays, some people will be predicting two turns ahead as well and saying their opinion on what looks correct, what looks wrong. It's every caster is different, and you need to realize, like, you need to watch some of them to realize which one is the one that fits you and which one would you like to try, kind of thing, before you start going. Now that is so correct, JT, by you. Now next question, JT, I have for you is, what do you do as a, like, let's just say you're a new caster, you're casting and you made a mistake. You said something, let's just say, like, Gialis is about to do a crystal bite, but crystal bite is literally on cooldown. You didn't recognize that, so how would you go with that? Do you apologize right away by saying that you just didn't know about it, or would you like to just skip and just keep going with the pace? How do you approach a situation as a new caster if you make a mistake of not knowing what is happening, or you are not sure what's happening?
I think that of course, like if you realizing that for that point that you didn't watch or you missed actually that point where C bite didn't happen, and you could potentially like say, okay, so either that crystal bite wasn't ready that turn, or it have already be used, and I have most likely missed it. So you just try to like given a quick explanation that why you believed it would come, but it didn't really come. So it could all depend. Like, but at this point, they have already been used, and you let's say I missed that turn. So, but that's like the best thing I could do. Just of course, you will always apologizing because I mean, even the caster can be wrong. Shocking, right?
Yes, I'm guilty of this for a lot when I started, and I definitely recognized that I need to stop. So when I started, I took a nice break. I literally did not do a tournament for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I just took a nice break. I decided to just play myself, and I literally did like 10 hour streams daily, just PvP only, and trying to play all different kinds of team, full aggro, mid range, stall, doom, try everything.
Hmm.
So I basically know what are the current speed tiers and stuff going on. And then when I tried casting again after that, it was a different perspective because I knew a lot of stuff that was already happening. I knew the common speed tiers, I knew the speed breakpoints, the stamina breakpoints doesn't really matter, but speed breakpoints, I knew them, and it was really a day and night difference when I was casting with knowing everything and without knowing everything.
Mhm.
So it definitely helps a lot if you are playing yourself in ladder as well while you want to learn casting or start doing casting. So that is definitely something you should look into. When Sipanku came over, actually, I was kind of washed out because I was so used to Kisiwa meta, and when Sipanku was released, we popped Luma size much, right? So that's when
Mhm.
I did like a 200 perfect giveaway, but all my energy and resources were straight into that. I spent zero time in learning the Sipanku meta. So the first one or two tournaments I did in Sipanku was absolutely a mess for me. Like, the audience did not complain because, well, they were getting the casting, they were getting turn by turn information and stuff. But me as a caster inside, I just knew that I am talking stuff that I'm not 100% sure of. I'm predicting turns that I'm not absolutely certain of. And then suddenly, you always need this one person in life who just comes up and washes you up with fresh water and tells you that it's time to get yourself back to knowledge, because you are talking some stuff that is either not making sense or looking like a fool of yourself, to people who know. And for me, that person was Silent. Silent came up to me. He's like, Saga, you need to start playing competitive in Sipanku now. Sipanku released, it's been 2 weeks now. You've been doing events, you've been doing your giveaways and stuff, but you need to do competitive first before you start casting, because you are absolutely talking in some turns where it is exactly not happening, and you do sound like you're a bit clueless. So you should take your dip into it before you do more events. And again, I did the same thing like before. I took a 1 week break. I dumped myself in competitive straight up. I played an aggro team, I played a mid-range team. I got a good idea of level 72 breakpoints, and after that it was good again. So I believe that whether you're a good caster, bad caster, medium caster, average caster, or any caster, you do need to play in every meta yourself to get an idea of the breakpoints, right?
Mhm. That is absolutely correct.
That is what I would have to say if I'm giving feedback, that at least whenever a new meta comes in, at least play 50 or 100 matches by yourself as well. I'm not saying before doing an event, you can still do event while doing those, but just stay in the loop yourself, because the secret of a good casting is basically a good knowledge of the game itself, and it does not come just by itself. You have to play, you have to either get smacked on ladder or smack someone else on ladder, but that is the only way to learn Temtem, and that is what it is. I mean, we don't have raw resources on Temtem. We have to learn it our way. I mean, there are channels who make content for helping new people out, but the advanced people are the ones who have to make their own strategies. And I
Mhm.
think time has been proof enough. Like, we have seen time and time again that people make teams that are meta and they succeed because that is consistent. But there will be people like, for example, let's say Prodi, let's say Wasi, let's say Subaki. These are the people that are creative. They make their own team. They bring up something that the normal 90% of the audience does not expect to face, and they just get bamboozled because they did not expect that coming. They are waiting for meta picks to be showing up, but suddenly you just see, like, literally last night we had a Legacy Cup and we had a level 1 Luotel being played in that tournament. In a competitive environment, we had a level 1 Luotel and a Osukan being played. Half of the audience from my 80 viewers had no idea what was going on there. Why did Prodi bring a level 1 Luotel in that match? Even we could not figure out earlier, but later on we did realize it was for Deceit Aura guys using Seppuku overexertion to kill one time on the other side, which is still a lot more of 5 head, but this kind of stuff you just cannot get without not playing yourself as well. Otherwise, you're just gonna be surprised as well. Because yesterday, literally, I was surprised as well, and so was Silent as well. Silent was like, "Why one speed, one level 1 Luotel when it can be a level 72 as well, and do it with Voodoo kind of thing?" But again, you learn stuff as you play more and more.
That is true. That is so true.
Mm-hmm. If you had to give any feedback, let's just say, for example, devs are seeing this video and you want to give them some advice for future competitive stuff, what would your advice be?
My advice would be that I know this is just a dream for me, but one of the things would be that really like take a listen to the community, especially into the competitive scene when it's come to like getting balance patches. Like that is something that I think would happen, not consistently, but like finding like a good time, like let's say like that lapping time between 2 to like 4 months in around that time, like finding like, okay, we have noticed that, for example, Jowler is still a little bit doing too much damage, or it's still too bulky. How would we approach to make it a little bit differently? Like, should we lower more on the base defense, or should we just decreasing its straight comebacker? Like that's one of the things that I think it's very important, that especially if now Krema wants to making the competitive scene towards the esports scenario,
Mm-hmm.
they really need to take words from the community. Even though they are looking on the community a lot, especially all of the feedback they're receiving, how they can approach or how they can adjust things. But I feel like we need probably more balanced patches to probably finding the good stable on the most attempts. Like so far, we have like majority of the attempts feels like more or less we are in a good area. They should not be touched anymore. But it feels like there are some that should be touched. For example, like Taifu. Taifu is like a attempt that nobody plays. It has so many good moves, but you don't know really how to utilize this as perfectly.
Yeah, I've been hearing that if they give Taifu the plague, it might be played, but still, I think the stats itself are a problem on it. But it has such good moves, that is correct.
The same that goes over to like Tadru as well. Tadru have also like a bunch of like different moves, and it is such a shame that Tadru is like just a lower version of Yowler. Yowler can do everything that Tadru wanted to do, but it has a utility that Yowler doesn't have. If you can utilize Tadru in a properly way, sure, Tadru can be a really amazing temp to be having in your team. But as even though it has like the highest total stats, if I'm not misremember, or at least one of the top three highest stats in total, it's still been outclassed by Yowler.
That is so true. That is so true. Well, that is all correct that you just said, because I do think Rema has to take a lot of feedback, and as long as they take some kind of feedback from competitive scene and try to implement it, that would be excellent for the game. So far, I would not complain about the balance, because Cipanku meta is the best that I have ever seen, at least for this game, and I'm really happy with the current meta playing into it. Every match is a different match. I do not see the same stalls. I do not see the same matchups as well. It's just a lot of fun right now to play the game. Now that should be all my questions for you, JT. Would you have any closing words for the audience?
Yeah, like thank you everybody for coming all the way to the end here. Like first of all, like Saga, thank you so much for having me here into the podcast. It has been actually been a pleasure to be here and talking about like from a caster's perspective, from
Mm-hmm.
how I feel like to casting and so on. And yeah, I absolutely had a flawless time here.
I mean, as we always do, JT, as we always do, the bully is not online today, so I am looking pretty healthy right now. I'm not being affected by the Vikings yet, at least. But yeah, guys, that would be our take on the podcast episode number 3. Episode number 4 is still incoming. I will not spoil the surprise on what it is, but the uploads should be consistent from here onwards. We had some problems with the YouTube account, which is why it was all delayed so far. Apologize for that, but do check out JT if you do like him. I will link his Twitch and his socials in the description as well. He streams every week, mostly Club Wars. You do it right now, right, JT? Or you are doing the PvP streams as well?
Whenever I see like there's an opportunity for me to stream even just regular PvP, I do that as well. But you can definitely expecting more like competitive club war tournaments and so on my channel most of the time. But like I said, I try to also just stream regularly just regular competitive, but also like could be happy and streaming like other games. But yeah, Temtem is gonna be like my main game for a while now, and yes.
Alright, sounds good. You guys heard him. Well, if you do want some competitive streams, whenever he streams, he's either streaming PvP himself or he will be casting a big match that is happening around the town for sure. So do check him out. If you do like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, guys, and hit the notification button to get notified of the new uploads. I will link to the whole playlist and Twitch of JT and myself if you want to hang out with us is in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit either me or JT or just join the Discord and ask in the general chat. That is all fine with us. We will catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe and have a great day.
Okay, guys.